All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I really wanted to just kind of share my thoughts on Robert Saleh being on the hot seat, right? It doesn't matter where you look, any sort of hot seat coaching articles, what have you, Saleh's on there, right? And to be fair, it's the same names pretty much on every form of content. It's Dennis Allen, it's Mike McCarthy, it's Brian Dable, and Robert Saleh, Nick Sirianni too. Most of the time, not in every case, but most of the time. But Saleh is, he's a mainstay on this list. And on one hand, it sucks because it's like, man, you never want to see that the head coach of your favorite football team on the hot seat list going into a year. But the other side of the coin, that's what a career 18-33 record gets you, right? Like there needs to be pressure, there needs to be fire, there needs to be urgency when it comes to the head coaching position of an NFL franchise, especially somebody who, again, hasn't really performed up to this point, as well as somebody who's been in that seat for 3 years, right? It'd be one thing if, we're talking about Jonathan Gannon or something. He's been there for 1 year. Yeah, they lost a bunch of games, but they're in the process of rebuilding. Saleh obviously has been here for 3. And I'd be lying if I said that I had no concerns about Robert Saleh moving forward, right? I mean, I definitely have my worries, right, with, when it comes to developing any sort of offensive players, when it comes to game planning, when it comes to leadership, handling adversity, not really caring what the media has to say about him or the Jets. I mean, it's clear with how the Jets operate, they do factor that, like, it's a topic, right? Internally, they're aware of how they're portrayed externally, which personally, I'm just not a big, not the biggest fan of here. I also have questions about putting together a competent offensive staff. But even though I have my concerns, that doesn't mean, I don't like everything that he brings to the table. I think he has a real eye for defensive talent, right? I don't think it's a coincidence that, for the most part, every single defensive player we acquire, whether it's Quincy Williams, whether it's top 5 pick in Sauce Gardner, whether it's a 5th round pick in Michael Carter, we can talk about Quinnen having the best season of his career under Robert Saleh, Bryce Huff flourishing, Jermaine Johnson developing in year 2, Solomon becoming a nice quality role player for New York. Quentin Jefferson, going back to last season, having the best season of his career as far as a pass rusher is concerned. Tony Adams, these undrafted guys seem to make noise. I think Roberts, again, I don't think there's a coincidence that Joe Douglas is just handpicking, maneuvering this draft. And he's just, spot on with all, for the most part, all of these defensive players. The one player that just clearly did not work out was Carl Lawson, and, injuries had a big part of that. But again, I think Robert Saleh has a ton to do with acquiring defensive talent. Number 2, he runs a time-tested system, so this scheme is ran by multiple organizations in football, and if you have the personnel in the most important positions, this scheme is really, really hard to go against, right? But on the flip side, it's kind of like a rubber band effect. If you don't have talent at key positions, it's going to be a long day. Some of the key positions, defensive ends, corners that are instinctual, guys that can, accelerate, burst really, really quickly, a roaming free safety, a middle linebacker that can really quarterback the defense, help stop the run in CJ Mosley. The third thing I like about Saleh is the fact that he's in like this CEO managerial type of position where despite Saleh being a defensive guy, Jeff Ulbrich can step in, run the defense, call it, literally take the reins on Sunday. That way it opens Saleh up for better clock management, for a better read of the game, has his finger on the pulse of what exactly is going on, maybe when to whip out a trick play. He can give offensive input. Now, unfortunately, on the flip side, you can make the argument, well, Saleh doesn't really excel in any of those aspects, especially on the offensive side of the football, which is fair, because all that stuff has been in question at specific points in these past 3 seasons. But it's still nice to have a defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, there who can run the show. And that would free up Saleh's responsibilities as far as digging his head in the play sheet, being so involved with the defense, and trying to neutralize the opposing offenses where he can't really go over to the offensive side and give his thoughts. He can't really talk to Hackett all that much because he's, when the defense is on the field, he's doing his thing. When the defense is off, he's meeting with the defense. He's going over film and things like that. So Jeff Ulbrich being here is such a huge advantage. So overall, it is tough, admittedly, to see Saleh's name over and over and over again as somebody who is on like the hottest seat in football. Because look, we all love the New York Jets here. We never want to see guys get fired. We want to see the players, the general manager, the coaching staff. We want to see these guys work out and turn the organization around, not be in constant turnover. Hire a guy, fire somebody 2 years later because they're just completely incompetent. We don't want to be in that position, right? Obviously. So it's always a tough pill to swallow seeing Robert Saleh's name pop up over and over. But at the same time, given the past 3 years, given the state of the Jets roster, given how last year went, career record, all these different things, I think it's fair, right? I think it's totally fair. And this is the season, right? This is the make or break year. If the Jets miss the playoffs, I'm moving on. I think there's just no more excuses with this New York Jets team. Now, look, if everybody gets hurt again, that's one thing. But as far as us having depth at specific positions, I think we're a lot better in right now. And it's not to say that Joe Douglas can hopefully make more moves in the event that other players were to get hurt. But again, there's just no more excuses. You have got to end the playoff. Ending the playoff drought is one thing, but just getting this team back to, consistently getting above 500 is, would be a start. I thought we would have already been there by now. Unfortunately, we have not seen that at this point in time. But hopefully this season in 2024, everything clicks, players stay healthy, and we rack up a ton of W's this season. But I think the main question here is what's the comfortable threshold for you to where you would bring Saleh and co back? Is it winning the division? Is it winning a playoff game? Is it getting to the playoffs but losing in round one? Like what's that? And I know it's we're first week of June here, so it's still super early, and we have to provide context, right? If the Jets get a playoff win, but then we get blown out in round two, what's the dynamic looking like? It's a long season, right? But just ballpark, where do you guys kind of stand on that? Because I know for me, 6, 7, 8 wins, potentially 9 wins, I think I'm moving on. It's playoff mandate for me, 100%. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.